drama and this issue carefully. Because when death comes, it doesn't send a postcard. When you get the warrant from God, it's called death. And it comes quickly and swiftly. And you're going to answer for the gift that you have been given. And this is what we're all talking about. The gift that you have been given. This life that you have been given, it's a responsibility. Now, if you came here and you didn't know, well, you know now. You see? You know now. If you didn't know before, now you know, so that means now you are responsible. You can't lie. Our job was simply to put the proposition in front of you. And to be Muslim, it doesn't mean you have to come somewhere where the Muslims gather and dive in a pool. You don't have to go and buy some material and wrap your head in a bandana. If you're a woman, you don't have to go someplace and buy some black clothing. Although there is some significance to the way the Muslim women dress, and there's a significance to men who choose to wrap their heads. And yes, we do wash before our prayers, but it's not the rituals. This is not the issue. Everything starts with a declaration. If you came to this country from another country to become a citizen, what did you have to do? Did you have to make a declaration? Yes. When you get off the plane coming from one country to another, what do you have to do? You have to make a declaration. Before you get your PhD, you have to do what? Write a thesis. Everything in this world that allows a person to graduate or to pass on and to be accepted calls for what? A declaration. So I'm asking you, as a human being, I'm not trying to convert anybody. I'm not asking you to do anything that you wouldn't do anyway. But I'm proposing to you as a human being that you say inside of yourself that there's none to be worshiped, none to be acknowledged except the creator of the heavens and the earth. I'm asking you to say that inside yourself first. Just like saying your own name inside yourself. The difference between making that declaration and saying your name, you've been accustomed to saying that all your life. So if I said, excuse me, what's your name? Huh? Pam. See? If she didn't tell me her name and I just happened to know it and I said, Pam, she would look directly at me and stand up. Because that's the psychological reaction. When you hear your name, what do? You respond. Well, inside of you, there is a natural reaction towards God unless that natural reaction has been covered or disfigured. Then when God calls you, you don't act and you don't respond, and that's tragedy. I am proposing to you who are non-Muslims to declare that there's none to be worshipped except Almighty God. You can determine for yourself later on if you want to be a Muslim, formally. If you want to accept that Muhammad is the messenger of God, formally, you can determine that for yourself. But minimally, raise your hands if you accept that there's none to be worshipped except Almighty God. Muslims, put your hands down. Those who are non-Muslims, I asked you for the proposition to bear witness that there's none to be worshipped except the Creator, to acknowledge that there's only one Creator, that is your Lord and my Lord. I ask you to raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Brothers and sisters, those people who were courageous enough to listen through all of this and also to acknowledge the basic proposition that there's none to be worshipped except the Creator, you should understand that there are pillars to every building, a foundation to every building, and that Islam also has its pillars and its foundation. You can be provided with all the information that you need, free of charge. You can get a copy of this lecture, free of charge. Those who have the courage inside of themselves to proclaim that there's nothing to be worshipped except the Almighty. You can get a copy of this lecture free of charge to examine it further. Secondly, you can receive information, literature, free of charge from the many Islamic organizations, bookstores here in Sydney. You can get one of my cards. Contact me by the email, and we'll send to you free of charge an illustrated guide on Islam. We'll send that to you free of charge. You can visit one of the many Islamic centers in Sydney, and I promise you, you will not be taken hostage. I advise that you sit down with a Muslim and let them explain a little further to you the prescription of Islam. Take the next step. That is, wash your hands like Jesus did. Wash your feet like Jesus did. And stand before the altar of God. Not a wooden altar. The altar of God is wherever you are. Remove all the images and all your preconditioning after washing yourselves as has been prescribed. And then learn how to worship as Jesus Christ worshiped, as all the prophets worshiped. Because this, again, we're coming back to the origin of our statement. What have we been created for? What is the purpose of life? To do what? To acknowledge Almighty God and to worship Almighty God and to obey Almighty God. I want to thank you. I want to thank Almighty God, and I ask Him to guide us and to help us and to appreciate the honor of being able to make this presentation to you tonight. I want to thank the organizers of this gathering. I want to thank all the people that wasn't able to sit down here tonight. I really feel a bit disappointed that 300 or 400 people came and they couldn't come in because of the restrictions of the hall, but we had no way of knowing. Honestly, I'll be very frank with you. I don't anticipate 5, 10, 15, 20, or 50 people. I don't know. I leave it up to the organizers. I lecture all over the world. I've been to 37 countries in the last 5, 6, or 7 years. And sometimes I lecture to 15 people, 20 people, sometimes 1,000 people. And I don't have any particular credentials for what I do. It's a mandate from God to share whatever it is that I do. I'm a new Muslim. I didn't say I was a young Muslim. I'm a new Muslim, meaning that Islam was new to me when I accepted it. My father and my mother and my grandparents, they were not Muslims. I was born into Christianity. And in many ways, I still feel obligated. And maybe I'm suited. And maybe I can say that I compete with the Christians in my love and attachment to Jesus Christ and His message. But God guides whom He pleases. And I am grateful that God guided me to Islam. And all praise is due to the Creator who guides whom He wills and who guided me to Islam. And without His guidance, I could never have been guided. I want to thank you, the Muslims. I want to thank you also for your support and any non-Muslims that you brought here. And certainly, any non-Muslim that you brought here tonight will be for you as an ajra. And the non-Muslims that came here, honestly, your presence here is more sacred and more important than all the Muslims combined. because the Muslims already have the treasure. They didn't have to come. You came by your inquisitiveness. You came out of your respect. You came because you wanted to hear, you wanted to know. At least minimally, I ask the non-Muslims, when you leave from here, if you don't accept Islam, if you don't embrace Islam, if you never give the consideration to it, one thing that you would be able to do, that when somebody says that Muslims worship Muhammad, what will you tell them? That's not true. Muslims do not worship Muhammad. Muhammad was just a man and just a prophet. When they say to you that Islam is a fanatic religion, that Muslims hate Christians, what will you tell them? That's not true. And you will tell them that if some Muslims committed some crimes, if that is the case, you should not indict a global faith because of the action of a few people, just as we would not indict Jesus Christ for the actions of many so-called Christian nations and organizations for the perpetuation of slavery and war and so many things. But the issue here is not the crimes committed by Christians or the crimes committed by Muslims. The issue is that the message of Jesus Christ is pure, and the message of the Prophet Muhammad and Islam is pure. And anyone who is pure in their hearts, they should be able to understand that. And our proposition to you is that you consider that Islam is a system of life that has the capacity to address the issues of the world and to offer some propositions of peace, both in your life and in your family, in your society, and the world. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.